If you've been spinning for a while and the videos you record look nothing like what you imagine them to be, you may be suffering from a bad recording setup. This video will go over what makes a good spinning setup for pen spinning, and how to best set up your setup to get the most out of your spinning. Even if you're hand camming, you can still get effective results, even more so than someone with a webcam who doesn't know anything about setups. To understand what makes a good setup, one must understand the circle. Arguably the most important thing when it comes to creating effective visuals. The goal of pen sitting is to create circles with your pen. Some people think the goal of pen sitting is just to move the pen in different directions, and although some people make this their goal, those that do never actually get good if they ignore the fundamental goal of making circles. Now, why am I talking about circles in a setup video? Well, that's because pen sitting doesn't always look like a circle from every direction. Some viewing angles are awful, even if it's extremely circular from another direction. Even the best pen sitters cannot create circles from every direction, so choose the best angle for your angle of rotation. As a general rule, with your hand in a comfortable palm side or palm up position, follow your palm in that direction. The camera should be somewhere in this area. If you are more of a power spinner, then the best angle is normally from right above, because well-performed power tricks tend to leave the pen mod rotating level with the floor. Now that you know the ideal angle for your type of spinning, let's go on to your camera. First, let's look at these two videos. Do you notice a difference? You'd probably say this one looks more choppy. If you've taken photography or know anything about cameras, then you might be able to know exactly what's going on here. In photography basics, there are 3 variables you can change to adjust how the video it records looks. These are aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. The difference in these two videos technically has to do with both shutter speed and ISO, but we'll only look at the shutter speed as that's the most important for us pen sitters. This video was shot with 1/120 shutter speed, and this video was shot with 130 shutter speed. 130 is commonly known as the golden standard for pen sitters, known for creating effective visuals. At 140, it doesn't look as smooth, and at 120, the drop in FPS becomes noticeable. You might think that's great and all, but how do I actually adjust my shutter speed? Normally, if you have a real camera, you'd have to adjust the ISO and aperture to compensate for the desired shutter speed. But if you're using a phone camera, you can download a camera app. For Android, the app that I know of is Open Camera, and for iOS, the app that I use is Yamera, or however you say it. You can do your own research and find some that work for you. I don't believe you can adjust the actual aperture for these as they're just phone cameras. But you'll probably only want to control the shutter speed anyway if you're just going to be using it for pen sitting. Now that you have the perfect angle and shutter speed, let's talk about your environment. This goes into more of a niche and somewhat preferential subgenre of setup, as many people prefer different things, but I'll go over some generally known things. Don't use the same pen mod color as the background color. This one is pretty self-explanatory. If your pen mod is the same color as the background, the pen will blend in too much and it will be hard to distinguish between the pen and the background. Next, have at least one lighter aspect, either the background or the pen mod. This one ties with the last one, where if you have both the pen and the background too dark, it will be hard to see. Both a dark pen on a light background and a light pen on a dark background work well. Next, have a simple background, no clutter. This one should be pretty obvious. But if you have too many things in the video other than the pen, it will be very distracting, especially if they're moving, but still even if they're stationary. Just don't have a lot of things unless it adds to the theme or aesthetic of your video. Last but definitely not least, have good lighting. This one is critical when it comes to creating effective visuals. Similar to the different colored and shaded pen mod compared to the background, the lighting can make or break the ability to see your spinning. Please just don't spin in a cave with candlelight or in a bathroom with only your phone light. Also, don't try to spin outside in the middle of the day when it's super bright out. Why? Well, this relates to the shutter speed we talked about earlier. To have our lower shutter speed, the camera lens needs to be opened for longer, which lets in more light, so the ISO must be lowered. In other words, in a super bright area, no matter what camera you use, your shutter speed will be decreased to compensate for the increase in light. So to spin for best visuals, you need diffused soft lighting. If your light is super harsh and looks something like this, try pointing it in the other direction, bouncing it off of something like a wall or paper. Now with that, you should have a decent penciling setup. Of course, I didn't talk about aspect ratios because they can vary depending on the use. But in most cases, record landscape, meaning record like this instead of this. Now when it comes to more specific ratios, the two most common today are 16:9 and 4:3, which look like these. If you like this kind of video, let me know and feel free to check out my other videos too. Thanks for watching, see you next time.